My fiancé canceled our wedding, then demanded I pay for her recovery vacation. Great news, I already booked the trip. I used your card last night. I didn't lose my temper or make a scene. I just reported the credit card fraud and let the system handle it. 2 weeks later, she was arrested at the airport, and somehow, I'm the villain who ruined her life over money. Madison and I had been together for 4 years. Engaged for 8 months, we had our wedding planned for October 15th. Church booked, reception hall reserved, photographer paid, invitations sent to 200 guests. I'm a software engineer making $85,000 a year. She worked part-time at a boutique while finishing her marketing degree. 2 months before the wedding, I added her as an authorized user to my main credit card with a $15,000 limit. Made complete sense since we were about to be married. She'd been responsible with it, using maybe $300 total for legitimate wedding expenses. The first red flag was when she started getting weird about wedding planning in early September. Everything was too overwhelming, and she needed more time to process such a big life change. I figured normal pre-wedding anxiety. My family had already bought outfits, taken time off work, made travel arrangements. Everyone was excited for what we thought would be the best day of our lives. September 20th, exactly 25 days before our wedding. Madison texts me at work, "I can't do this anymore. The wedding is off. I need to figure out who I am." Not a phone call. Not a face-to-face conversation. A text message canceling our entire future. While I was in a client meeting, my hands were shaking as I read it over and over, waiting for the follow-up saying it was a joke. This couldn't be real. I rushed home thinking maybe we could talk through whatever crisis she was having. She was already packing, completely calm, like she was checking out of a hotel. When I asked what was happening, she kept repeating generic phrases about needing to find herself and how this doesn't feel authentic to who I'm becoming. No specific complaints. No mention of anything I'd done wrong. Just vague self-help language explaining nothing. I was devastated but tried to be understanding. Maybe she was having some quarter-life crisis. I actually helped her load her car and told her I loved her, hoping this was temporary panic. That was my first massive mistake. 3 days later, Madison calls crying hysterically. I thought maybe she'd realize she'd made a terrible mistake. Instead, she launches into this sob story about how confused and emotionally destroyed she is. I'm in so much pain right now. I need to get away somewhere peaceful and clear my head. Can you help me book a trip somewhere, tropical, where I can heal? My heart was still broken, and I'm thinking maybe a few days apart would help us both process everything. How much are we talking about? Maybe 3,000 or 4,000. I found this amazing wellness resort in Costa Rica that specializes in spiritual healing and self-discovery. It's exactly what I need right now. I felt sick to my stomach. $4,000 for the person who just destroyed our relationship and left me to cancel everything alone. I was surrounded by wedding magazines and vendor contracts, trying to figure out how to explain to 200 people that the wedding was off. Just book it on your card since I'm still an authorized user. I'll totally pay you back once I get my finances sorted. That night, I spent hours canceling vendors. The church refunded our deposit. The photographer kept only half our payment. The reception hall was worst. We lost the entire $4,000 deposit plus a cancellation fee because we canceled inside 30 days. I was already out over $8,000 because of her decision. And now she wanted me to fund her recovery vacation. When I explained I couldn't afford her trip while dealing with cancellation costs, she completely lost her mind. The screaming was unbelievable. I had to hold the phone away from my ear while she ranted about how selfish I was being during her time of crisis. Apparently, I was proving exactly why she couldn't marry someone who prioritizes money over her emotional well-being. Madison launched a full-scale emotional manipulation campaign. She started calling multiple times daily, always crying, always with some new angle about how broken and desperate she was. Long monologues about panic attacks and sleepless nights. How the only thing that would help was getting away somewhere peaceful. I'm falling apart here. I can barely function. This trip isn't some luxury vacation. It's literally medical treatment for my mental health. How can you claim to love me and refuse to help me heal? The guilt trips were relentless and expertly crafted. She'd reference all the times I'd said I'd do anything for her. How disappointed she was to discover I was this kind of person who would abandon someone in their darkest hour. But worse was when she involved other people. Her sister Emma called Thursday night, clearly coached. Madison is really struggling. I've never seen her this broken. She's not eating, not sleeping, just crying constantly. Can't you just help her out? Her mom left a voicemail. Madison needs support right now. She's always been a sensitive soul, and this kind of major life decision is destroying her. We raised her to believe that people who love you will be there when you need them most. Even mutual friends started hinting I should be the bigger person. Sarah from our friend group said I was being kind of heartless for caring more about money than Madison's mental health. I was getting tag teamed by everyone in her circle, all acting like I was heartless for not funding my ex-fiancée's vacation after she dumped me via text 3 days earlier. The coordinated pressure was overwhelming and honestly pretty effective. When guilt didn't work fast enough, Madison decided to just take what she wanted. She showed up Saturday morning unannounced, letting herself in with the key she was supposed to have returned. I was in my pajamas having coffee when she walked into my kitchen carrying a printed itinerary. Great news. I already booked the trip, she announced triumphantly. I used your card last night. The resort had a last-minute cancellation, and I had to grab it immediately. My blood ran completely cold. I felt dizzy for a second, because I couldn't process what she was telling me. You did what exactly? I booked the healing retreat. It's only $4,500. Totally reasonable for 2 weeks at an internationally acclaimed wellness center. I was going to ask first, but I knew you'd overthink it and probably say no, and this opportunity was too perfect to miss. She had actually used my credit card without permission to book herself a vacation to recover from dumping me. I was staring at someone I thought I knew completely, realizing I didn't know her at all. Madison, you absolutely cannot use my credit card without asking me first. That's not okay under any circumstances. But we're still connected. We were going to be married in 3 weeks. You love me, so obviously you want me to heal and be happy. The money doesn't matter compared to making sure I'm emotionally healthy enough to figure out what I really want. The entitlement was mind-blowing. She had convinced herself that dumping me gave her the right to steal from me for self-care purposes. In her twisted logic, my love for her meant I should be grateful for the opportunity to fund her journey of self-discovery. I told her to cancel the trip immediately. She laughed at me. Actually threw her head back and laughed like I told the funniest joke ever. I'm definitely not canceling anything. I leave tomorrow morning and I'm going to spend 2 weeks figuring out my life. When I get back, maybe we can try to work things out if you've learned to be more supportive. She was holding our relationship hostage while robbing me blind, acting like I should be grateful for the chance to prove my love by financing her post-breakup healing journey. Madison, if you don't cancel this trip right now, I'm going to report the charges as fraudulent. Her entire demeanor changed instantly. The fake sweetness disappeared, and I saw something cold and calculating that genuinely scared me. You wouldn't dare do that. That would completely ruin my life over a few $1,000s. What kind of person threatens someone they claim to love? I'm the kind of person who doesn't let people steal from them. It's not stealing. We were practically married. This money is as much mine as yours. I can't believe you're being this selfish and vindictive. She genuinely believed that our relationship gave her ownership rights to my money. Even after she'd ended that relationship herself days earlier, the entitlement was so extreme it was almost surreal. The next morning, I woke up to my phone buzzing with notifications. Madison had posted on social media from the airport, and every post was designed to publicly humiliate me while making herself look like some brave spiritual warrior. Pictures of her boarding pass, champagne in the first-class lounge, selfies with captions about choosing myself and being grateful for this healing journey. But the worst part was, she'd upgraded herself to first class using my stolen money. Then she tagged me, "Thank you, babe, for supporting my growth even when it's hard. Real love means wanting someone to heal and find themselves. See you when I'm whole again. Love you." She was making it look like I was willingly funding her post-breakup vacation. My phone immediately started buzzing with confused messages from friends and family who thought I'd lost my mind. My brother called asking if I was okay. My mom was worried I was having some breakdown. My best friend thought Madison had manipulated me into some weird arrangement. The public humiliation was unbearable. But what really pushed me over the edge was realizing she'd planned this whole thing. The manipulation, the guilt trips, the theft. It was all calculated to get what she wanted while making me look like either a pushover or a villain. That's when something cold and final settled in my chest. I was completely done protecting her from the consequences of her own choices. I didn't call her screaming. I didn't post angry responses calling her out. I didn't text threats or try to shame her publicly. I just quietly opened my banking app and reported every single charge as fraudulent. Then I called the credit card company's fraud hotline. I need to report unauthorized charges by someone who stole my card information. She's my ex-fiancée who canceled our wedding last week and has been pressuring me to pay for a vacation. No, I absolutely did not give permission for these purchases. Yes, I want to press charges. The representative was incredibly helpful. They immediately froze the card, reversed all charges, and opened a formal fraud investigation. They explained that using someone's credit card without permission, even as an authorized user, becomes theft when done after the relationship ends, and without explicit consent. I spent the next 2 hours methodically documenting everything. Screenshots of every social media post where she thanked me for supporting her trip, text messages where she acknowledged taking the money without asking, voice recordings of her admitting she'd taken the money without permission because it was fate. The evidence was overwhelming because she'd been so arrogant about the whole thing. She documented her own crime on social media and bragged about manipulating me. Then I sent her one simple text. Card reported stolen. Fraud case number is 7,749,382. Have a great trip. And I blocked her on everything. According to mutual friends still in contact with Madison, her healing journey turned into a complete nightmare within 6 hours. The first sign of trouble was when she tried to order room service and her card was declined. She called the front desk thinking it was a mistake, and they informed her that all charges for her stay had been reversed due to fraud claims filed by the cardholder. She was stuck at an expensive resort in Costa Rica with no way to pay, and her return flight canceled because that had been booked on my card too. Madison tried calling me from the resort phone, but I'd blocked her number, so calls went to voicemail. The messages were absolutely unhinged, screaming about how I was destroying her life and abandoning her in a foreign country like a sociopath. Her parents were furious when they found out what had really happened, especially since she'd told them I was paying willingly, as some amicable post-breakup gesture. Her dad actually called to apologize once he understood the situation. Madison's parents had to wire her enough money to pay the resort and book a new flight home. She came back 3 days into what was supposed to be a 2-week healing retreat, completely humiliated and facing serious legal trouble. Update. Madison came back from Costa Rica early and humiliated, but instead of taking responsibility, she's made everything worse. Her behavior since getting back has been so unhinged, I'm genuinely worried about her mental state. Her parents were livid when they discovered the truth. Her dad called again to apologize and said they'd had no idea she'd stolen from me. Madison had told them I was paying as a goodbye gift to help her through the transition. When they found out about the fraud, they were mortified and immediately offered to pay restitution. But Madison was furious. Her parents believed me over her version. She started telling people I'd manipulated her family against her and was using my privilege to turn everyone against a woman in crisis. The harassment escalated quickly. She showed up at my workplace Tuesday morning, somehow getting past building security to my floor. She was screaming in the lobby about how I'd abandoned her in a foreign country and used the legal system to abuse her emotionally. My coworkers stared in horror as she ranted about how I was a sociopath who weaponizes love and how she was going to expose me for the manipulative person I really am. Security had to physically escort her out while she yelled I was too selfish and vindictive to ever deserve love. My manager pulled me aside afterward to ask if I needed time off or wanted to involve police. Several coworkers reached out to make sure I was okay and said they were shocked by her behavior. Madison started a social media campaign painting herself as the victim of financial abuse and legal system harassment. She posted long rants about how I was using capitalism and male privilege to punish her for having feelings, and how the fraud charges were my way of controlling and terrorizing her. The posts were completely delusional. She claimed I'd promised to support her healing journey and then vindictively destroyed her life when she tried to take care of her mental health. Her friends who originally supported her started backing away when they realized she'd actually committed credit card fraud. Emma, her sister, reached out to apologize and said the family was mortified by Madison's continued behavior and lies. The detective handling the case called Friday with an update. Madison had tried to withdraw her statement and claimed the charges weren't fraud because we were basically married, and I always paid for everything anyway. The detective said this actually made the case stronger because it showed clear intent and awareness. She didn't have permission. Her own admission that she knew I would have said no proved she understood she was stealing. People keep asking about the $9,500 total. Turns out Madison didn't just book the basic retreat. Once she got to Costa Rica and realized she could charge anything to my card, she went completely overboard. She upgraded to first-class flights both ways, added every spa package and healing treatment, booked expensive excursions like private yoga sessions, ordered room service constantly, and went shopping in resort boutiques. She even charged expensive jewelry and designer clothes, claiming it was all part of her healing wardrobe. The entitled spending spree was completely out of control. Once she thought she'd gotten away with the initial theft, the detective said this pattern of escalating unauthorized spending made it a clear felony case. Madison's latest Instagram story claims I'm harassing her through the legal system and that she's the real victim of systematic financial abuse. She started a GoFundMe asking for donations to help with her legal defense against an abusive ex. The delusion is incredible. She's convinced herself she's the victim in a situation where she stole thousands of dollars from someone who loved her. The crazy definitely isn't stopping anytime soon. Final update: Madison was arrested 3 weeks ago on felony credit card fraud charges. The district attorney said her social media posts admitting to using my card without permission, combined with evidence of her escalating spending once she realized I couldn't immediately stop her, made this one of the clearest fraud cases they'd seen. She initially pled not guilty and tried to represent herself, which was a disaster. She argued the charges were invalid because of relationship financial abuse and claimed I was weaponizing the patriarchal legal system to punish her for ending our engagement. The judge was visibly unimpressed when Madison tried to argue that love should transcend property rights and that prosecuting her was emotional terrorism. Her public defender finally convinced her to accept a plea deal after she'd thoroughly embarrassed herself. Final sentence: 3 years probation, full restitution of $9,500 plus court costs, 200 hours community service, mandatory financial responsibility counseling, and a permanent no-contact order. She has to stay off social media regarding the case and cannot contact me directly or through intermediaries. Madison's life completely imploded. She lost her job when her arrest became public. Her lease wasn't renewed because the property management company doesn't want tenants with fraud convictions. Most of her friend group cut contact when they realized the extent of her entitled behavior. The social consequences have been devastating. People in our community now know exactly who she really is behind the sweet spiritual wellness persona she'd cultivated. Her reputation is permanently destroyed. Her family is still dealing with the fallout. Her parents had to take out a personal loan to pay my restitution because Madison has no income. They're also paying for her counseling and legal fees, putting serious strain on their retirement savings. Madison has burned bridges with basically everyone who tried to help her by consistently blaming them for not understanding her trauma and failing to support her during her darkest hour. She tried reaching out through a cousin last week with a sincere apology that was actually just more manipulation. The message said she forgives me for overreacting to her mistake and wants to heal together now that she's learned valuable lessons about communication. Even her apology was somehow about how I'd wronged her. She couldn't take full responsibility even when facing serious legal consequences. Meanwhile, my life has improved dramatically. I got promoted at work partly because my manager was impressed with how professionally I handled the situation. I bought a house with the money I would have spent on the wedding. I started dating someone incredible who thinks Madison's behavior was completely psychotic. The whole experience taught me that some people will destroy themselves completely if you just step back and let them face natural consequences. Madison created every single problem she's dealing with through her own escalating entitled behavior and refusal to take responsibility. I didn't ruin her life. I just stopped protecting her from the results of her own actions. The fraud charges, social exile, financial ruin, destroyed relationships, she earned all of that through a series of increasingly terrible decisions. To those saying I went too far, she literally committed felony theft and tried to publicly humiliate me while doing it. She documented her own crimes on social media and bragged about manipulating me. The evidence was overwhelming because she was so arrogant about the whole thing. I didn't destroy her life over a few $1,000s. I let her destroy her own life by refusing to enable her criminal behavior and manipulation any longer. Thanks, Reddit. Sometimes letting entitled people show everyone exactly who they are is the most effective response possible. Madison got exactly what she deserved, and I'm finally free from someone who saw me as a bank account with feelings rather than a human being worth respecting.